everybody, great song from the Scorpions. I'll tell you, the Zoo, just a killer song. This song's in standard tuning, and of course I have my notes written out. They'll be available right below the video, so you can download those. I did, I researched my lessons, and I looked at the tab, and unfortunately the rhythm of the tab was wrong in certain parts, and for the most part the leads were pretty good. So, it's one of those things, you take it with a grain of salt, and watching them live is the main thing to see kind of, okay, if it is an E chord, are they playing it in the first position, the seventh position, and so forth. So it gives you a better idea of what's going on. So with that said, let's get into the lesson. It starts out with this really, I think the key to this intro is downstrokes. And we're not just playing a simple power chord. We are playing basically the full chord other than the first string. All right. So we're going to be going from E to D, back to E, and then C, B, C, D, E. Okay. That's the gist of it. The way it starts out, we're going to do a set of 3 down, 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 and then 4 down, 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 down before we move to D back to E. Then we quickly move to C back to B and then C again. Then we go up to E and back to D. So they don't really pause there. It's just kind of a full motion at this point. So to that point, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then we're going to repeat the same strokes with the E to D back to E, and then our C, B, C, but we're going to pause on D and let that rest for the rest of 4 counts. So it'll be a 3 count. Then the whole thing repeats. So a little more up tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I said, it would repeat for another set of that, and that is the intro. Then we go into the pre-verse. Pre-verse, that sounds like pre-verse, but anyhow, this is just before the verse. It's really, I don't know, maybe it is part of the intro if you want to consider it that, but it shows up in other parts of the song. So what we're going to do is it starts out with sets of 4. 1, 2, and then 2 more. If you count it that way, you would have 8 counts, if you will, or sets of 4. 8 sets of 4. But they start out with a 1, or I should say they start out on the 2, and then they go to 3, 4. And then the rest. Now, this last set after that 6th one, we're going to do another 2 and then 1. And then we go into the chords. So it's a little bit tricky. Slow it down if you can. But if you follow along with my tab, it will make sense. I bolded every other so you can see how the rhythm flows into this chording part. Okay, so the chorded part during this quote-unquote pre-verse, it's basically dyads or 2-note referencing chords, all right? So we're going to be on the 5th string at the 12th fret and the 4th string at 10. This will reference an A minor. And then we move that a half step down with our first finger to the 9th fret, but our middle finger will take over, so it's a full step from the 5th string from 12 to 10. So 10 on the 5th string, 9 on the 4th, and that will reference a G. All right, then we're going to move that to an F sharp minor. So that'll be, again, spread out. We'll go 9 on the 5th string and 7 on the 4th string. And then we'll just move that whole thing down another step. All right, that will be referencing an E minor. Back to our F sharp minor, and then our G. All right, that's one time through. The second time through, this is what the tab gets wrong. They just move, just like we just did, back to G. But what he really does is move from the E minor back to F sharp minor, and then not up to G, but back to E minor. All right, so the second time through, so there we come back rather than forward. So let's do those first two, because I'll repeat. The second time he just holds it and the song starts in with the verse. All right, so one time through, and we'll add a chug note between each one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you can hear that little difference there between an E and the G, and the E being minor. It just, again, it's one of those things, as I was learning this, I looked at the tab, it's like, oh, this sounds good. And the more I researched it, it's like something's missing. Why would we go back and end the song on this E minor and hold that and not do it any other time? It makes more sense to go up to G, back to our E one time, and then back to G, and then end on the E minor. So the second time through, and I should mention, there are basically one, then two more chugs, two chugs, and then one before we move from this A minor to G. So, and then we do it. All right, so. All right, you get the idea. So let's go through the last two measures. We'll start with the G, and then we end on the E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, that is when the verse starts. So now we are into the verse. The verse is two measures of what we began with the pre-verse. Just chugging on that E chord, starting with 2, and then 3, 4. Again. All right, but we'll do two measures of that. Then we go into the chord of those dyads, those two note chords. All right, we're going to end with the G the first time through, then the second time we end with the E minor, and that's it. We just do one set of them. All right, we've gone over that. You can follow my notes. Then we're into verse 2. Verse 2 starts out basically the same. We're going to have those chugs on the E, but we stop just short or 1/4 count. So we go up to 7, and then we go into the chorus. Again, it's all in my notes, so it's all... Okay, and then the chorus chords, we're going to go over those specifically now. What we have are a G, to a D, to an E, to a C. Back to G, D, and E. All right, then we're going to come back around just like we started. All right, at this point, when we hit this C chord, we're going to move back and go to B, to D and E. Now, I'm using a fourth root G chord. So I'm on the G note on the 4th string at the 5th fret, then 7 on the 3rd string, and if you want, you can put your pinky down on the 8th fret of the 2nd string. I believe in economics and where it makes sense to me. I didn't see a good live video showing this. You know, they're usually focusing on the singer and stuff, but you can play the G up here, no problem. But again, I personally believe in economics, so... So that's the chorus. Now there's another guitar, and of course Scorpions have 2, so if you want you can arpeggiate these chords. So play through the G. Just picking through from the 5th, 4th, and 3rd, or if we're in the 4th root, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. It's really a feel thing, and listen to the song if that's what you want to do. It sounds cool to do it that way too, but you know, again, I just kind of personally enjoy playing the power chords. So that is the chorus. That goes through twice, and then we come into the interlude. Now, this interlude happens twice, and it's very basic. We're basically going to an A power chord. We're going to hit that 6 times, and then a C note on the 5th fret of the 3rd string with a slight bend. And they do that 4 times. So after our interlude is what I consider solo 1. It's not very long, it's not very difficult. It does have a talk box. So we're going to do the chords. Alright, we'll do that 2 full measures. So we're going to end on G 1 time and then E minor the 2nd time. Alright, so we go through that as he's playing the solo. I'm going to go over the solo and all the licks which I have charted out in the song during like verse 3 coming up. We've got lick 4, lick 5, lick 6 all in there again and charted in my tab. So we'll talk about all the licks afterwards. Alright, so we go through, you know, then we're into verse 3. Verse 3 leads us into chorus 2. At that point, we go into Interlude 2. Then we're into solo 2, all right, which takes us out of the song. So we keep repeating this motif until it fades out, between ending one measure with the G and ending the second measure with the E minor. You get the idea. So that takes us out of the song. That is all the rhythm. Really, really just classic rock at its best. I'm glad I rediscovered the Scorpions, and yeah, thank you, Dave. All right, so we've got licks to go over. Okay, so the licks during the choruses, they take up 7 of the licks. They're similar in what we're doing, if you will, but they end on different notes, if you will. All right, so lick 1, we're going to be playing E minor pentatonic. So we start out like this. All right, so we're bending up the second string at 15. Then we go to 12 on the first string, then hit 15 on the second string, pulled off to 12. Landing on 14 with a bend and release, and then we hit 12. It's not a pull-off. And then we land on 15 bend. So all together, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then slide off. Now, lick 2, once they go through another set of the chorus, you'll hear this. Alright, so we're hitting 17 now on the first string bent, and then we'll hit it again with a bend and release and pull off to 15, and then 17 again bent. Then we're going to release, after holding that, we release it and pull off to 15. And then end up on 17 bent with vibrato. All right, so slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, lick 3, very similar to lick 1, but we're going to land or stay on the third string. All right, so we're going to do the same beginning, but when we go to 14, we will do a bend, release, pull off to 12, and then come back to 14 with a bend and vibrato, all on the third string. All right, and then we go into the section called Solo 1. All right, Solo 1 all happens here, and it's short. It's with, at least in the studio recording, it's short. Live, they really extend it out. But in the studio recording, he's again got the talk box going on, and he's still dealing with the E minor, but he's up here in the first position. So we're going to have our, use your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and we're going to hit that along with the 2nd fret of the 3rd string that's bent. And you can use your 1st finger to help bend that, because it's a hard bend. We're right here close to the nut. So he's going to bend it, give it some vibrato, and then slowly release and pull off to open. Then he'll land on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, and then you'll hear the 6th string go from a 3 or 3rd fret, bend slightly, and then open. So all together, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can even slide into that 3. So that's kind of, like I said, that's kind of your introduction. I call it Solo 1 just because that's how it happens in the song. but it's your introduction to the voice box and kind of what he's going to be doing. All right, so when we come up to the next chorus, we'll begin to lick 4 and then 5. 4 is the 21st fret of the first string with a hit, vibrato, and bend. All right, then we're going to come back with the 5th lick, if you will, is the same as our 3rd lick. So we're going to do that pull off from 14 to 12, bend release, pull off 14, 12, and land back on 14. Okay, so lick number 6, we're going to slide in on the 2nd string at 17 and then hit 20 on the 1st string. It'll sound like this. There's a bit more to it, but... All right, so again, it's a very felt with the rhythm lick. We're going to slide in 2nd string 17, catching the 1st string at 20. Then he goes up to 22 with 2 bends. Comes back to 17. You want the 15th position, but you're going to hit 17 bent. Let that ring and then slowly release and pull off to 15. Hit 17 again and then 17 with a bend release and pull off to 15 before landing on 17 on the 2nd string. All right, that is lick 6. So lick 7, very similar to what we've just done with the 3rd string. We're just going to do it twice. So it'll sound like this. So we're actually bend and releasing 14 to 12 and then landing back on 14 twice. With this added. All right, those are all the licks you'll hear. Then we are into solo 2. Now solo 2 is quite lengthy and it all evolves again around all right, so I'm not going to go through it because, again, it's about 8 measures long and a lot of the same licks we've learned, but it's all written out for you guys. So, again, slow it down with Riff Station. I'll have a link to how to use it if you don't know, or how I use it in a video you can download, actually, and follow along, and the link to get Riff Station free. So, as always, I hope that helps everybody. Always a joy.